Hey guys, today I pulled out a couple of cool South African pistols to talk about, both made by the Vector company, and they're both from the same SP1 family. The first one is the General's model, and the second is the Target model. And you might be thinking from looking at them they look similar to a Beretta 92, and that's because they're actually based on the Beretta 92. Previously, before this, the Vector company was making the Z88, which was essentially a complete Beretta clone. And later on in the early 90s, they came out with this SP1 family, which was basically the same thing, a Beretta clone, but with some cosmetic flourishes and some unique sort of aesthetics going on to it that I think makes them pretty cool. And they're made in South Africa, which is another interesting feature. Just like the Beretta 92, these all had an alloy frame with steel slides. Build quality is really quite good. I think they're at least on par with Berettas, if not better. There was also a middle model that I don't have that was just the standard SP1. It was pretty much just the same as a regular Beretta 92. You know, it was a full-size pistol. This one is a smaller gun, obviously more intended for concealed carry, defensive purposes. This one is clearly the match-oriented version with its longer slide. It's got a single action only straight trigger, and I'll get into all that. Later on there was also a version called the SP2, which was in 40 Smith & Wesson. All the SP1s were in 9mm. I'm going to mostly focus on the Target variant just because I think it's more unique and exotic, but the smaller General's model is also a pretty quality piece, and I'll talk about that a little bit too. So let me just clear that off for now. With the SP1 Targets, you also had the option of getting this dual tone finish, which I think looks kind of cool. Other upgrades over the rest of the SP1 series are, like I mentioned, there's a single action only trigger with a straight trigger here. It's got target sights, long sight radius because of this barrel weight at the end, which is not a compensator, it is a weight. And there's also a bushing in here, which is really interesting, and it really helps with accuracy. So I'll compare the size of this Target variant to a standard Beretta. I say standard, it's not really. This is the Millennium, which I'll talk about in a future review, promise you. It's a very cool, unique variant there of the Beretta 92. I mean, there's not a whole lot to say really. This is pretty much based on the Beretta 92 frame, so it's the same size. Obviously this one just has a little bit longer barrel with that extension on there, but weight is also very nice. This big one here is 42 ounces. Smaller one is 32. You can kind of see there, though, that they are essentially the same gun. One key difference, of course, is that the slide on the Vectors is not open like it is on the Beretta, which is a distinctive feature of these Berettas. They did not do that with these. That's one of the cosmetic changes in going from the Z88 to these SP1s. Getting into the controls and ergonomics, like I mentioned before, this is a frame-mounted safety, which is very easy to manipulate. It's also nice and large, so that has a good feel to it. Might almost be a little bit too easy just because it's so quick, but I guess that's what you want in a competition setting. See, flip it up, trigger won't move. Magazine release is really easy to hit. You can see it kind of protrudes there. I mean, you don't even have to move your thumb really, at least for me. My thumb's already sitting on it, so boom, drops free, nice and easy. These mags are interchangeable with Beretta 92 mags, double stack. Flat trigger for competition purposes. Nice long sight radius. Show you the sight picture on this guy. Just real plain black blade at the back and a black post up front. Works okay on targets, but it's probably not ideal for quick shooting. And real quick, the General's model has more combat-oriented 3-dot sights, which work great. And nothing really different here. Like I said, most of these features in this SP1 Target are going to apply to the rest of the line, except for, of course, the double action trigger, and I'll talk about that in shooting impressions. And at this end, you have some really interesting stuff going on. You have this weight here, which is not a compensator. A lot of people might think that it is, but there are no holes for gas to escape. It is purely a weight, and the secondary function, which is actually possibly more important, I think, for accuracy at least, is that it serves as a cone bushing that keeps the barrel locked up really nice and tightly with the slide, which is one of the shortcomings of the Beretta 92 platform generally with regards to accuracy, is that that end of the barrel is just kind of floppy. I'll actually show you on this Millennium here. It's hard to get accuracy out of Beretta 92s, at least out to great distances, because this barrel is not supported at the end. So sometimes the gun locks up like that, sometimes like that, and that little fraction of a millimeter can make a difference in accuracy. This gun has a really nice feature where if you unscrew this with a specialized wrench, and I actually have one out right here, it goes together like this. You can kind of see how that interfaces with the end of the barrel here. I'm not going to do it because it's a tremendous pain to put back together. But what happens is you unscrew this, the weight comes off, and there's a cone basically that fits into the end of the slide here, and it wraps around the barrel. So once you screw this back on, it pushes that cone into the slide, and it keeps this barrel really nice and tight. There's no movement there, no movement back here. And that makes for a really accurate gun, which I'll talk about in shooting impressions, of course. But it's a really interesting feature, and it's a unique feature. You don't really see that on many Beretta models. but it really does seem to contribute to accuracy, at least in my experience. A couple other controls I forgot to mention are, of course, the slide release right here, which is where you'd expect it to be, and it's nice and easy to hit. And then this is the takedown lever, which functions similarly to the Beretta 92, except you don't have to push it in on this side. And there's a little slot right there that you have to draw the slide back to in order to take it apart. So I'll show you that real fast. So you bring it back. Once that's lined up, you can flip this down. And there you can see that cone. Actually, that cone right there is part of this weight. I mean, it actually all comes apart if you take it apart, which is what I was saying I don't want to do, because there are multiple pieces in here and you have to screw one and then back it off and screw the other one into it. It's just quite a pain. But anyway, this cone is what locks into that end of the slide and keeps the barrel absolutely rigid, absolutely accurate. So that's a cool feature. Take that off, let you look inside. You can see there the frame. Good build quality all around, I think. Good finishing. Take this spring out, and you can see here that the barrel is indeed based on the Beretta 92's barrel. You can see the way that works, that falling block there. And there are a million Beretta 92 videos, obviously, that you can watch if you want to see how a Beretta 92 functions, because that will teach you how a SP1 functions also. Of course, the General's model takes down the exact same way as this gun. And it's just that easy. Sometimes putting it back together can be a little tricky, only because after you shoot it for a while, this barrel weight starts to loosen just a little bit, and it'll be slightly canted, which is probably not the best design feature, because I mean your front sight post is on that weight and then it'll start to cant eventually. But then what happens is when you try to put the slide back on after you take it apart, you can't get it back together because this little weight is cocked, so you have to spin it back. So that's just kind of a pain with this. It does sort of loosen it. Like I said, it's kind of a pain in the neck to tighten it back together, but once you do, you are rewarded, because shooting impressions, this gun is a fabulous shooter. The trigger is pretty good, and single action only, of course. Show you the brake there. It's a little bit heavy. Pretty crisp brake though, a little bit of over travel also. You can sort of adjust the over travel with this screw there, which if I should have showed you when I had the slide off, but when you take the slide off, you can back in or out this little screw here, and that dictates how much over travel you have. I got it down to about the minimum. There's still just a little bit, but overall the trigger is quite good. I'll show you the reset too. Nice and audible, very solid feeling, and again, it's just right there. So pretty good trigger. The accuracy though is where this gun really shines, and it might be because of that long sight radius, but this, and also I think this bushing, but this gun is extremely accurate for a Beretta especially. I generally shoot Berettas pretty well, and this one I shoot better than any other Beretta that I've shot so far. It's really good at the range. The SP1 General's model is a good shooter also, but I wouldn't rave about it like I will with the Target model. Let me show you the trigger on this one too. This one is double action, single action like the rest of the SP1 guns, and the single action trigger is pretty good. A little bit heavy, but a really nice, clean, solid brake. Not much over travel. Show you the reset. Real solid also. Good click. And good solid brake there. It's a little bit heavy. Double action is smooth. A little heavy maybe, but very smooth. There's no weird weighting to it or anything like that. So good double action, single action trigger. Accuracy is alright. I mean, it's pretty much just average. I find it to be pretty much on par with any other gun in this size range, in this class. You know, it's sort of a compact-ish metal double stack 9mm. It's about average with those, so nothing too special there. But this gun is loads of fun to shoot because of how accurate it is. Very soft also, of course, with this barrel weight. And grip ergonomics are pretty good. I could go for a little bit more of a beaver tail maybe. I don't get any kind of hammer bite or anything, but just having a little bit more to sit my hand under would be nice for when you want to hike up high. But shooting impressions are very good with this gun. I've never had any reliability issues either. Shoots everything I've fed it, which tends to be decent brass ammo, but it all works great for me. So no real complaints at the range for sure. So in conclusion, both of these guns are pretty cool and I like them a lot. This one a little bit less so than this one, but this one is impossible to find. I've only seen a couple for sale ever in the United States. You definitely seem to find them more in South Africa. Just Googling for information and things, about the only discussions I've been able to find about these have been on South African gun boards. And people tend to like them down there, and I can see why. I think they're great shooters. I've always liked the Beretta 92 platform in general, and these This one in particular is a great example of that platform because, like I said, it has this bushing up here, long sight radius, good SIO trigger, much better than the Millenniums, in fact. Makes it a great shooter. This is a good, competent gun. It's well made. Nothing overly crazy and special, but there's nothing really wrong with it. It's just got that exoticness from being from South Africa and not something that you see very often. This one, in fact, almost made it onto my top 10 list, which you may have seen, my gun hipster top 10 list that nobody seems to understand what the point of it is, and I kind of regret making sometimes. But this almost made it onto maybe not the number 10 spot because I really do shoot it extremely well. It's a lot of fun. I like the look of it too. It's got that space gun look, especially with this dual tone finish. Angular trigger guard here. The look is just cool. I always liked Vector's logo too. Looks kind of like something sci-fi out of the 80s maybe. These are not related in any way except for the fact that they're made by the same company to the CP1, which is a completely different gun, different system, unique design altogether. And I will do a thorough review on this eventually. I did a short one a long time ago, but it wasn't very good. I'm going to do a full review on this gun. I like it a lot too. It's a great shooting gun and really cool looking. And certainly more spacey looking than these, but not at all related. So that's an overview of a couple examples from the SP1 family by Vector. I don't believe Vector is in business anymore, but you can still find these SP1 general models and the regular SP1s every once in a while. These are hard to find, but if you do, you won't regret getting one. So thanks for watching and stay tuned for the next review. Thanks.